From Storyflo Daily Top 10 May 19, 2026 Google Antigravity, Booker for Taiwan, Karpathy to Anthropic, FBI Plate Gamma Dragnet. Welcome to the Storyflo Daily Top 10 for May 19, 2026. I'm the desk editor. Here are the most consequential stories across every beat we cover. 1. Google used its I/O 2026 keynote to ship Antigravity 2.0, a standalone agent-first development platform desktop app, CLI, SDK, managed agents and the Gemini API, and an enterprise-tier rollout via the Gemini Enterprise Agent platform. Per MarkTech post, the architectural move is the headline. Google is pushing developer tooling away from IDE-centric assistance toward multi-agent orchestration as the primary abstraction, with scheduled background tasks turning the agent from a single-turn helper into a persistent pipeline. The competitive read is that the IDE is no longer where the model meets the developer. 2. Karpathy, one of the original 11 OpenAI co-founders and former head of Tesla's AI division, announced he's joining Anthropic. Per VentureBeat, an Anthropic spokesperson confirmed he'll lead a team using Claude to accelerate pre-training research itself, pushing the lab toward the recursive self-improvement frontier where models train their successors with less and less human input. The timing on the opening day of Google I/O is not a coincidence. Senior researcher Gravity inside the Frontier Labs is now a market-moving signal. 3. The FBI is seeking a nationwide license plate camera contract. Per Ars Technica, the May 14 request for proposals from the FBI Directorate of Intelligence requires near real-time license plate reader data covering 75% of U.S. locations, with search by plate, vehicle description, time, and geolocation. The civil liberties surface is enormous. The Bureau is buying its way into a pre-existing private surveillance grid rather than building one, which sidesteps the procurement scrutiny that a federal-built network would face. 4. Per Carbon Brief, the CCC concludes that an extra £11 billion per year in adaptation spending, flood defenses, building cooling, reservoirs, water efficiency is cheaper than facing the damages. The 554-page document lays out 20 objectives and more than 100 actions and will FED the UK government's fourth climate change risk assessment due in 2027. The UK Climate Change Committee released its well-adapted UK report. It is the first major adaptation analysis framed entirely in solutions cost versus damages cost terms. 5. Per Axios's exclusive on the Corporate Energy Buyers Association annual report, companies contracted 13.4 gigawatts of clean energy capacity in the first quarter of 2026 alone, more than all of 2021. SEPA CEO Rich Powell says it's hard to imagine this won't be our biggest year ever, driven by AI data center demand and a rush to qualify projects before the July 4 construction deadline under Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The group quietly renamed itself in March from Clean Energy Buyers Association to Corporate Energy Buyers Association. Politics, not strategy. 6. Trump is back to considering military strikes on Iran. Per Axios, the president met his national security team Monday after Iran rejected the U.S. draft proposal on ending the war, saying the ceasefire with Iran is on massive life support. Vance, Witkoff, Rubio, Hegseth, Kaine, and Ratcliffe were in the room. Per the Atlantic's Daily, the DOJ is settling Trump's personal lawsuit against the IRS by creating a $1.776 billion anti-weaponization fund out of the uncapped judgment fund, and an addendum published this morning declares the IRS forever barred from pursuing any and all claims against Trump, his family, or his companies over previously filed taxes. The pivot point, Trump said Iran had agreed to relinquish its enriched uranium stockpile to the U.S., then reversed in its Sunday response. Whether this is a negotiating set piece or a real return to kinetic action will determine the back half of the week. 7. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche confirmed before a Senate subcommittee that the fund could compensate January 6 defendants. Taxpayers fund the suit, the settlement, and the political base on the other end of it. 8. Taiwan travelogue won the International Booker Prize 2026 at Tate Modern. Per the Booker Prizes, the £50,000 award is split equally between Taiwanese author Yang Shuangzai and translator Lin King. Chair of Judges Natasha Brown called it a captivating, slyly sophisticated novel that pulls off the double feat of romance and incisive post-colonial fiction set against 1930s Taiwan under Japanese colonial rule. Per Stat, former Stanford President Mark Tessier-Levine responded publicly for the first time Tuesday at the Stat Breakthrough Summit West to allegations in Theo Baker's new book How to Rule the World. Baker reports the Stanford board concluded his admit nothing, deny everything approach did no T reflect well on him and, by extension, the institution, and that a younger female colleague's dismissed challenge to his work contributed to a unanimous vote to replace him. The translator equal share model continues to shift how prestige translation work is valued in the Anglophone market. 9. The board mechanics now sit in the open. How research integrity failures actually convert into university leadership turnover. 10. Per Inside Medicine's scoop, MV Honda's passenger Angela Perriman intends to challenge the federal quarantine order keeping her at the National Quarantine Unit in Omaha after Andy's hantavirus exposure. The order was signed by CDC's Dr. J. Bhattacharya. Perriman has negative PCR and antibody tests and argues she poses no transmission risk. She wants to complete monitoring in a private residence. This will be the first significant legal test of a U.S. federal quarantine order in years and will set evidentiary precedent for the next outbreak that gets here faster than the system expects. A few worth flagging in the show notes. Commercial observer on robotics firms Merbius and Elquist taking 10,000 square feet of new leases at Brooklyn's Industry City, a leading indicator for U.S. urban harbor eye clustering. Blue Amp Media and the Bismarck cables on the Kash Patel and Cuba storylines moving in parallel. The Bulwark on the Trump-Vance looting in broad daylight framing, and the Motley Fool's market wrap noting Poet Technologies down 8% after a $400 million offering as the AI Photonics re-rating gets its first dilution test. That's the Storyflo Daily Top 10. Every source linked in the show notes. Back tomorrow.